there! What's up with your please? Wake up! Wake up!
What do you want from me? Who are you? I don't have money! I don't have money! I don't have children!
We don't want anything from you. We just want some information about what is Moro literature. You tell us what is Moro literature. Tell us!
Okay, I will tell you. Back in my college days, Moro literature is...
Assalamualaikum. Hi, we are the Group 5 of Lead 21B reporting on the moral literature. Before anything else, we have the privilege to introduce ourselves. And of course, my name is Catada.
Renz Flores.
Kirby, Pamilaga.
Vincent Lusterio.
Without further ado, our report is guided taken from the critical essays of Dr. Samuel K. Tan on the developments of Muslim literature and by can be assigned on folk literature of the Muslim cultural communities. To begin with our report, let us first start on the development of Muslim literature by Dr. Samuel K. Tan. It may be necessary to define the meaning of Muslim literature. It may either mean literature written or produced by Muslims, or literature written on or about the Muslims. The logical reference is more to the latter because there has been very little literature written by Muslims. The fact is, Muslims failed to develop the kind of intellectual societies in the Middle East where one of the richest repositories of knowledge is found. Actually, there are factors which tended to hinder or discourage the development of intellectual activities of the Muslims. First, there was no intellectual atmosphere in the Philippine Muslim societies in which debate or controversy could stimulate the production of a variety of literary forms in the same way that Hellenistic and the other non-Islamic influences created in the Middle East the kind of intellectual exchange which resulted in voluminous literary achievements. The second factor is the Spanish language was never encouraged in the same manner that Latin, Greek, or Arabic was in the Middle East or Europe. So that the Spanish anti-Muslim literature never got into the Muslim consciousness and therefore could not generate any meaningful intellectual interaction vital to literary development. The third factor was there was no common linguistic vehicle in the Muslim societies through which Muslim intellectual resources could be channeled. The fourth factor is the frequencies of conflicts in Muslim societies prevented in the development of a leisure class which could provide a nucleus for intellectual stimulation and growth. To report the categories of the Muslim literature, may I present to you Peter.
Assalamualaikum. Today I will discuss to you about the oral literature of Muslims. As already said, the Muslim literature are categorized into written and oral. The oral literatures are the poems, riddles, wise sayings, short narratives, sermons, and epics which are called into the native of various names. We have the darangan, parangasabil, kisa, katakata, tukod-tukod, kutbas. There is many varieties of forms and themes, not necessarily structures as those are Muslim ethnic groups in the Philippines. Bantugan. Epic is a good specimen to show the kind of native talent or mind which went into the creation of a Guindanao epic tradition. This story reveals the kind of optimism which has always characterized the attitude of the Muslims in battle. Maharadiya Labana, a good example of Maranao epic literature, which is not duplicated in either Muslim societies, including Cotabato. It portrays the triumphant but risky adventure of two datos who end up killing Lawana and recovering from the abducted Princess Putray-Taya. The absence of any references to colonial influence or features makes the epic pre-Hispanic creation, and the absence of the reference to Islam takes the time of the epic to pre-Islamic. Parang Sabil is the epic tradition of Sulu. The geopolitical isolation of Sulu from the rest of Mindanao prevents any meaningful exchanges between the Muslims of Sulu and those of Mindanao. Parang Sabil is usually recited in the evening and ever some kind of merriment. It lasts from 7 to 10 days or more depending on the speed of the reciter and the length of the epic. Its principal characteristic is conflict around which resolve all poetical, musical, and literary elements. Kesa and Catada are distinctive Sulu narratives usually told overnight. There's, however, no source or study describing the characteristic of each type. But it seems that the Kesa is shorter and generally intended for the immediate completion in one storytelling. Examples of Kesa are Amaiyon, Inagandil, Lunsay Buho. The Katakata, on the other hand, may be told over a period of 1 to 2 days or nights and assumes variation in context or plot, although necessarily in character. Examples are Abunawas or Pusong, which is common among Tausug and Samal societies of Zamboanga, Basilan, and Sulu. But there is one point which should be mentioned, connection with the Sulu narratives. The Parang Sabil are only recited and sung, while Kesa and Katakata are only recited or told. There is no definite answer to the question whether the Parang Sabil is literature or music. It requires a determination of point where literature ends and music begins, and this is difficult. Other types of Muslim oral literature include the Kutbas and Tukud-Tukud, which are common in Muslim societies of Mindanao and Sulu. Kutbas are sermons that contain religious matters, while Kutud-Kutud are riddles which are rich of wise sayings that is attributed to the sages who have nabu or ingat, or what we call wisdom and intelligence. And that ends my report for today. Thank you.
Written literature of and about Muslims may be conveniently divided into Hispanic, American, Filipino, and Muslim according to certain changes in literary direction, distinct periods of history during which such changes emerged. The Hispanic literature of the Muslims was a product of socio-political conditions. By this is meant that the only kind of Muslim literature the Spanish period could produce was the type that the state of affairs and research in the colony could allow. Since the Muslim areas were never placed under real Spanish control, except for few brief interregnos, but in certain